Hello, dear listener. Whether you're driving home after a long day or sitting alone in the quiet of the night, I invite you to slow down and step into a story. Not quite a fairy tale, not entirely a prophecy either, but something in between, a deeper layer of truth about a soul born under the name Aries. There's something most people never notice behind Aries' bold smile, behind that decisive voice and eyes always fixed on the future. This they never truly forget. You might see them smile lightly when an old story comes up. You might hear them say, "I'm fine," or "It's all in the past now." But if you look a little closer, you'll see that behind their calm is a scar, small maybe, but permanent, because the heart of an Aries isn't a still, quiet place. It's a volcano where emotions are buried deep, burning low, never erupting but hot enough to melt every memory that once left a mark. No, Aries doesn't hold grudges. They're not built for bitterness, but they remember. And they remember with fire, the kind of memory that doesn't fade with time. It simply rests until you make the same mistake again. People often misunderstand. They think that when Aries doesn't get angry when they don't confront you, it means they've moved on. But sometimes, silence is their way of telling the universe, "I've seen enough, and I won't repeat this again." And the strange thing is, just when you think it's all over, when you believe you've escaped the consequences, that's when karma quietly begins to take notes. Silent as a shadow, it doesn't punish with thunder. It returns slowly, precisely in the same way Aries remembers. Because Aries doesn't hold onto memories to stay wounded. They hold them to grow. They remember to stop being naive, to plant roots in places they once fell. They remember like a warrior mapping the land where they were once ambushed, not to seek revenge, but to never be wounded by the same arrow again. And then one day, when you cross paths with that same Aries again, the one who once loved you with an open, innocent heart, you'll notice their eyes have changed. No longer wide open, no longer welcoming, now calm and closed. They don't hate you. They just no longer offer you a place in their world, because there are wounds that never bleed, yet change the shape of a soul forever. So if you ever had the chance to touch the heart of an Aries, know this: it was a gift. And if you ever hurt them, don't expect them to talk about it. The only one they remind is themselves, so they never forget what mistake not to repeat. Not everyone knows this, but those who carry the fire of Aries, they grow through wounds no one ever sees. They take a step back only to leap farther, and they never forget. They just no longer need you to know that they still remember. And then, while that flame of memory still simmers inside them, something else begins to rise deeper, harder to name. And if you ever dare to wound their pride, you awaken a part of their soul that even the universe doesn't dare to touch. And that is where the next story begins. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still on this journey. One that's not just about understanding Aries, but about listening to the heart of a warrior born from sky fire and life's fierce winds. If in the last chapter we passed through the hidden scars behind their smile, then this time I invite you to go deeper into the most sacred place inside them, their pride. Because for Aries, self-respect isn't a mask they wear for show. It's the backbone of who they are. It's what keeps them standing, even when the world around them is shaking. It's the fire in their eyes when they have nothing left in their hands but still hold their head high and keep walking. You might think they are arrogant, maybe too stubborn, but the truth is, their pride doesn't come from an empty ego. It's built from battles they've fought alone, from sleepless nights no one else knew about, from all the times they had to pull themselves back together because no one else would do it for them. So if, one day, you're the one who wounds them, if you're the reason they start to feel like they are not enough, not good enough, not worthy enough, you won't just hurt their feelings. You'll be touching the very fire that keeps them alive. You'll be blowing a cold wind into the ashes of a flame they fought so hard to keep burning through the storm. And no, you won't see the consequences right away. Because when their pride is hurt, Aries doesn't explode. They retreat, they go quiet, and then they begin building walls you'll never be allowed to climb again. But the truly painful part isn't that they pull away. It's that they start to question themselves. And you know what's terrifying? When an Aries, someone who once believed they could conquer the world, suddenly starts doubting who they are, that's not just hurting a person. That's breaking a whole system of belief. That's leading a soul into losing its direction. And karma, well, karma has a way of stepping in, not with punishment, but by quietly removing all the good things from around you. Because the universe always hears the cracking sound. when a good soul begins to shatter, and it always finds a way to restore the balance. But Aries, they don't stay broken for long. After the doubt, after the silence, after the fall, they rise again. Not to get revenge, but to make peace with themselves. They stitch up the pride that was torn. They learn to love the parts of them that you once made them question, and then they move forward, stronger, quieter. And you're no longer part of that path. You might see them again. You might hear their name in a conversation someday, but the light in their eyes that once looked at you with admiration, it's gone, replaced by someone who's learned. Not everyone deserves to know just how strong they really are. And when they've moved on, something else begins to appear, something they've never rationed, never withheld, never guarded for their own benefit. It's love, the love of an Aries, pure, fierce, and impossible to fake. And if someone ever lost that kind of love, then one day they'll realize what they walked away from. A miracle, one that doesn't come around. In every lifetime, there are things in this life that money will never buy, like the light of dawn slipping through your window on a chilly morning, like the feeling of being completely trusted by someone who sees right through you, or like the love of an Aries. Because if you've ever been truly loved by someone born under Aries, then you know what it feels like to be loved, as if you were the last person on earth. Love to them is not a negotiation. It's not a deal to be measured, weighed, or bartered, and it's never something they withhold. When things get hard, they love like warriors, walking into love with a shield to protect you, and a sword not to fight you but to cut down every doubt between your hearts. That kind of purity makes you feel safe. When the world outside is too loud, they become the quiet center. They may be blunt, fiery, even rough at times, but they'll remember the smallest things you said without thinking. They'll notice whether you ate today, whether your sleep was peaceful or filled with restless dreams. Because when Aries loves, they give all of themselves. They don't hold anything back. They don't worry about being hurt. They don't fear that you might leave. Because they don't love with logic, they love with their soul. And because they love with their soul, if you ever betray them, you don't just walk out of their life. You throw away a sacred gift, one the universe rarely offers twice. You don't just lose a person, you lose an energy that could have healed you, lifted you, fueled you, and helped you start again. Aries may love you like they love their own dream, trust you more than they trust themselves. And if you lie to them, if you leave them, if you make them feel like their love is too much, they won't need to scream. They won't need to accuse you, just once. That's all it takes for the universe to begin withdrawing the light you were once given. And when that love is no longer there, joy begins to fade. Victory starts to sound hollow. Every connection that follows feels like something's missing, something you can't quite name. Because once you were loved like the sun and you walked away from that light. Someone once asked, can Aries love again? The one who hurt them. The answer doesn't live in forgiveness. It lives in the change within their soul. Because yes, they can forgive, but they won't forget who they once handed both their sword and their shield. And when they choose not to come back, it's not because they stopped loving you. It's because they've learned to love themselves again. And even when that light goes out inside every Aries, there's one thing that never changes. They never regret loving. They only regret loving the wrong person so deeply. And in that quiet sorrow, another fire begins to burn. Not one meant to warm someone else, but one meant to guide them forward on their own path. And on that path, something else begins to reveal itself. Not from the love they gave, but from the way they vanished from your world. Silent, but unmistakably powerful. There's something people often get wrong. They think gentleness means weakness. They assume that when someone forgives, steps back, or stays silent, it's because they're not strong enough to fight back. But if that someone is an Aries, then you've misunderstood completely. Many have walked out of an Aries life, thinking they'll come back, they'll need me, they can't live without me. Only to look back months later and find nothing. Just silence, where there was once warmth, a light, a soul who gave everything without holding back. Now, there's only stillness and karma quietly waiting for the right time to speak. Because Aries, no matter how deeply they love, they don't cling. Yes, they can hurt. They can go still in the face of betrayal, but they won't stay where their worth is forgotten. They won't beg for love. They won't hold on out of guilt or pity. They won't remain half loved, half alive. Because once they realize their sincerity has been taken for granted, they pull away. No drama, no noise, like a fire you thought had gone out, but was really just gathering air, gathering strength. to rise somewhere else, somewhere more deserving. Some called it sudden coldness, but in truth it's the final line, drawn by someone who once gave everything. And when Aries rises after the fall, they don't ask for a hand. They don't need an audience. They move forward, as if you never existed. Not because they're heartless, but because they gave you every chance to stay and you didn't. And one day, you might see them shining again. In a photo someone shares, in a goal they just crushed. In a smile they offer the world one that no longer includes you. And in that moment you'll understand. Aries never needs to chase justice with their hands. They leave that to karma. They're not here for revenge. They're here to let the universe speak at the right time to the right person, in the right way, because the universe always knows when someone has lost a soul that never should have been let go. And on their path to healing, Aries begins to see something clearer, that they don't need to prove their worth through anyone's eyes. That sincerity isn't a gift everyone is lucky enough to receive. And sometimes, letting go is the most graceful way to keep your self-respect. But you know what? Even after they've walked away with no need to look back, there's still an empty space inside an Aries heart, not for someone to return, but for trust, to be rebuilt stronger, cleaner, wiser, because once they've learned to live without you, they'll also learn to live without needing anyone to understand them. And in that kind of self-reliance, a new layer unfolds, one only those who have lost them truly grasp, that when Aries goes silent, that's when they are at their strongest. And the one thing you should never do next is believe their trust can be stitched back together as if it was never torn apart. Some gifts in life are so rare that if you lose them once, you may never get a second chance. And if an Aries ever trusted you, truly trusted you, then understand this: you were handed one of those gifts, because Aries doesn't trust easily. They're born with sharp instincts, with a heart that stays guarded in a world that shifts too fast and wounds too deep. But if they chose you, if they let you into that inner world of theirs, it wasn't because you were flawless. It wasn't because you impressed them. It was because they saw something beautiful in you, something you may not have even seen in yourself. And in that quiet moment, trust began to bloom, not blind faith, but something conscious, something nurtured carefully, like a wound being cleaned and bandaged, handled with caution, but full of hope. You didn't need to do much to keep it. Just be real, just don't betray it. Just don't treat their love like a playground for your own uncertainty, because once that trust is broken, you won't hear it shatter. There won't be screams or explosions. Only one small thing will happen, but it will change everything. The door will close. Aries won't make a scene. They might still smile. They might still greet you like an old friend, but you'll feel it, something's missing. No more warmth in their eyes. No more light in their voice. No more quiet hope hidden in the way they ask, "How have you been?" Because the heart that once held candles just for you has now been swept clean, the lights turned off, the room locked shut. Some will say, "They're still talking to me. It must be okay." But what you don't understand is silence isn't in the words left unsaid. It's in the things they no longer feel the need to say. And from that moment on, karma enters the story. Not loudly, not with thunder, but quietly, bit by bit. The light around you begins to dim. What once came easily now feels distant. The peace you used to know now echoes with stillness. Not because Aries cursed you, but because the universe saw it all. It saw that you betrayed someone who believed in you more than they believed in themselves. You broke something sacred, and sacred things rarely come twice. And yet, even after all of that, Aries doesn't regret believing in you, because if they hadn't, they wouldn't have learned where their limits are. They wouldn't have grown. They wouldn't have discovered that some parts of themselves are meant to be saved for those who truly deserve them. And in that quiet, they begin to relearn something hard, that not everyone gets to enter the sacred land inside them. And from now on, trust will no longer be an open door. It will be a small flame, one that burns only for those who know how to cherish its light. And inside that little flame, there's another truth waiting to be told, a truth about a trait that can't be touched, a strength that holds their head high even when their heart is bleeding, and that is dignity. There are people out there who aren't just people. They are a feeling, a warmth, a place where you felt seen, trusted, safe. And if you were ever loved by an Aries with their whole heart, then you've known that kind of place. A home, not made of bricks or wood or glass windows, but built from protection, sacrifice, and the way they always stood by you even when the world turned its back. Aries doesn't love for fun. They love like you're part of a kingdom they would die to protect. They'll fight anyone who speaks against you. They'll take the fall if you mess up. They'll give you the better share and take the loss in silence. Because to them, once you're called family, a lover, a companion, you are family. But there's something most people never realize. Aries has a fierce survival instinct. They can forgive, but they are never blind. And once they truly feel that you are the one who stabbed them in the back, whether through words, silence, or that cold kind of indifference, you're no longer part of their world. There won't be a final conversation, no dramatic scene, just a quiet door, slowly closing, softly like someone pulling their hand out of a flame. And by the time you notice, it's already too late. The place that once felt like home is now a fortress, and there's no way back in. You might stand outside, looking in through the window of old memories. You'll see them smiling at someone new. You'll see the room you once called yours now without your name on the wall. You'll feel the warmth, the same warmth you once thought was yours, forever now given to someone else. Completely, peacefully. And then you'll start to feel the cold, not the kind that comes with winter, but the kind that comes when you lose the one place that once shielded you from every storm in your life. You'll try to go back, reach out, send messages, apologize, try to fix what's broken. But what you don't know is this: once Aries takes off that armor, once they remove you from the list of people they protect, you're no longer someone worth protecting, and karma takes over from there. It starts making you feel alone, even in a crowded room. It turns those who once admired you into strangers. It takes away the shelter you once had and leaves you face to face with the consequences you chose. And yet, strangely, Aries doesn't hate you. They just feel sorry. Not because they lost you, but because they once believed you'd never be the one to hurt them bad enough to make them walk away. And when they finally stand far enough to no longer feel the pain, they look back and remind themselves, not every place that once felt like home deserves a return. And in that silence, something else begins to rise, not from bitterness, but from the growth that comes after heartbreak. A new strength that makes Aries become someone even they didn't know they could be. A different version, wiser, stronger, quieter. A version you'll never get to meet again, because you're no longer invited in. Of all the ways a heart can break, few cut deeper than being made to doubt yourself by someone you once trusted the most. And if that someone was an Aries, then you didn't just hurt a person, you fractured something sacred, their belief in themselves. Aries wasn't born to hide behind anyone. They were born in fire, the fire of courage, of action, of the urge to lead. There's always a light inside them, a flame that doesn't need applause to burn. It simply exists like the sun rising each morning, whether anyone notices or not. But then you showed up. You, the one they let in. The one they allowed close enough to see the cracks they never show. The one they gave the rare gift of witnessing their fears, their quiet dreams, their softness behind the strength. And somehow you made them question it all. Maybe it was a careless comment, a cold stare when they needed your belief the most, a harsh comparison to someone else you admired, or maybe you just stopped seeing them the way you once did. And the worst part, it wasn't that you turned away. It was that they began turning away from themselves. From someone who always believed they could, they started asking, am I even enough? From someone who stood up after every fall, they began hesitating at the edge of the next step. From eyes that once blazed with courage, now flickers of quiet doubt. But you didn't see it, because Aries doesn't cry in front of anyone. They'll still smile, still stand tall, still seem unbreakable, but inside, that once blazing fire is dimming one flicker at a time. And then something miraculous happens, but not because of you, not because of anyone new. It happens because of them. They begin to return to themselves, bit by bit, picking up the shattered pieces of confidence that you helped break. They mend them with solitude, with silence, with nights no one else knows about. And when that fire rises again, you'll see it, but you won't be allowed near it. Because the universe remembers who tried to extinguish a flame that was born to shine. And karma doesn't forget. It comes to collect, not with thunder, but with quiet consequences. It takes from you the very things you once smothered in them, their faith, their energy, their light. You'll begin to fade even in the rooms where people once listened. Your voice loses its weight. You start to disappear colorless, anchorless. And Aries, they move on. Each step forward says clearly, no one has the right to make them forget who they are. They may have wavered, but they never fell. And from the place where they once broke, something else is born, not loud, not rushed, but strong, refined, sharp like a flame made of steel. And that version of them, it's not for you anymore, because now you're just a memory, one that doesn't deserve to remain in the light they fought so hard to reclaim. There are people who once made you believe you could do anything, not because they were better than you, but because they saw something in you that you never had the courage to believe in. And they lit it up like someone lighting a fire on a cold, dark night. When an Aries admires someone, it's never shallow. It's not loud praise or empty compliments. It's something sacred, a quiet, radiant light that comes from deep within. So pure, so real, it awakens the very best in you. They'll cheer for you when the world doubts you. They'll look at you in a way that makes you want to become your best self, not out of pressure, but because you don't want to let that look down. Aries doesn't admire easily. They don't lift you up because you're popular or because your wins are visible to the world. They admire you because they see your core, the soft but steady courage, the flawed but persistent heart, the unfinished light that still dares to shine. But then, something heartbreaking happens. You, the one they gave that glowing trust to, you do something that makes them turn away. Maybe you betrayed them. Maybe you made light of their trust, or maybe you just stopped being the person they once admired. And slowly that look in their eyes begins to fade. The sparkle is gone. No more quiet brightness when you walk into the room. No more excitement when your name comes up. Just silence. No blame, no harsh words, but also no longer a part of what they call beautiful. And then you feel it. Your success suddenly feels hollow. The praise from others sounds like echoes missing the weight it used to carry, because the one who once lifted you up, who believed in you with no condition, isn't there to see it anymore. You've become a chapter in a journal that's already turned to the next page. Not erased, but no longer read. And that's when you understand some losses don't come from goodbyes. They come from no longer being spoken of in the heart of someone who once saw you as something remarkable. And Aries, they don't resent you. They don't dwell on what's been lost, because they know admiration, once broken, can't be revived with an apology. It only returns if you become someone truly worthy of it. And by then, it usually doesn't matter anymore. And in the quiet glow of the one who now says nothing, something new is born. Not hate, but a blank space, pure and permanent. A sealed memory kept with calm. A space you no longer have a key to, no matter how gently you knock. And within that emptiness, a different kind of light begins to rise. Not for you anymore, but towards something higher, something deeper, the one thing no one can take from an Aries. Their ability to be reborn from even the deepest wounds you thought would break them. Some people walk into your life like the very first light of morning. Not too bright, not loud, just warm. Right down to your soul. They don't come to change your world. They just make it shine a little more. And if you've ever had a true Aries by your side, then you've lived in that kind of light. They don't have to try to be magical, they just are. When they are around, the world seems more alive. They have this quiet way of making you feel confident even when you've got nothing to prove. The way they listen even to the little things. The way they cheer you on even when you're not sure you can make it. To Aries, love isn't a promise in words. It's in the quiet care, the small actions, the moments they choose you, even when it costs them something. But even the brightest light can't stay where it isn't protected. Aries doesn't seek revenge. They don't yell when they're hurt. They won't write long texts full of blame. They just pull away, silently, and take with them the warmth you once thought would always be there. At first, you might not notice anything's missing. Same friends, same streets, same days passing by. But strangely, everything starts to feel a little more hollow. The coffee you used to drink together now tastes flat. The songs they once sent you now echo like ghosts from another time. Even your latest achievement somehow feels like it's missing applause, because what you lost wasn't just a person, you lost your sun. And when the sun no longer shines where you stand, even the most beautiful world feels like a shell without a soul. Karma doesn't punish with fire, it punishes with the absence of light. You won't break right away, but you'll begin to feel lost, right inside the things that used to bring you joy. And Aries, they won't come back, not out of pride, but because they already gave you all their trust once. And there's no reason to walk back into a place that once shattered them. They choose silence, but in that silence is a quiet declaration. I once loved you with all the light I had, and you wasted it. When someone like Aries disappears from your life, you won't see it coming. There won't be a dramatic ending, no final words soaked in tears, just a lingering sense that from this point on, nothing will ever feel whole again. And in that quiet emptiness, one thing remains, not regret, but a lesson. That when light leaves, it doesn't return to the same horizon, and the sun, it only rises again where it's honored, as the miracle that it will never be twice. Letter 1 ECFI Chat GPT. And now, if you're still here, still listening, I want to give you a moment. A quiet one, slow and still, so you can sit down, close your eyes, and remember an Aries who once walked through your life. Someone who may have loved you unconditionally, who stood by you even when you couldn't stand by yourself, who gave you things you never dared to ask for from anyone else simply because they believed you were worth it. That person might have been angry, might have been hurt, might have gone quiet, but they never stopped loving. And if one day they walked away, no goodbye, no explanation, it wasn't because they stopped caring. It was because they had loved enough. Enough to leave when they realized their love was no longer being held with care. You know, never confuse brilliance with being unbreakable. Yes, Aries can be fire, can be warriors, can be light. But beneath all that strength is still a whole heart, raw, real, and most fragile when it's given completely. So please don't hurt an Aries, not because they're dangerous, but because they are sincere, too sincere. And the universe, it always knows how to protect a soul like that, not by punishment, but by quietly taking back the light you were once given. And when you finally realize that, that person will already be long gone with all the life you never thought you'd lose. Maybe right now you're an Aries listening to this. Maybe you've been hurt, forgotten. Maybe you had to walk away in silence even when your heart was still full of all the love you never got to say. If that's you, then let me say this. You were never wrong for loving with your whole heart. You were never wrong for trusting someone. And you were never wrong for choosing to walk away to protect the last bit of light still left inside you. And I hope, after everything you've been through, you'll keep the fire in your heart alive, not to warm someone else but for yourself. You, the one who once stood alone in your own world, deserve to rise again, brighter than ever. Thank you for staying until the very last second. I hope that on this journey you didn't just find the image of an Aries, but you found yourself in every breath, every scar, every time you stood back up. I'll see you again on another journey, where light will keep rising from souls that never gave up on the truth inside them. Be at peace, and never forget Aries was born to shine, and no one can take that away except themselves.